You're listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author Sarah Box, where you get the inside scoop on the steps action takers and decision makers take to align their purpose to their principles and achieve their goals in business and life. We focus on the mantra, no labels, no limits, no excuses. And now, without further ado, please welcome your commanding coach with plenty of chutzpah and heart, Sarah Box.
Hey there, it's Sarah, and I want to welcome you personally to this very special edition of the No Labels, No Limits podcast. This is a new series that we just started, and we are so excited to introduce you to Moments with Maria. This series is a shorter version of the podcast. Maria touches upon words of advice and wisdom and encouragement that are shared by the members of our community, for the members of our community, and to all of you beyond. So without further ado, let's welcome Maria.
Hello and welcome. My name is Maria Lees. I am the team writer on Team Sarah Box, and this is another video in our series in which different members of our Sarah Box community are joining me to share some advice, wisdom, and encouragement. Speaking with me today is Stephani Cook. Stephani truly is a woman of many talents. She is a life and Enneagram coach, but she's also a speaker, author, podcast host, and the creator of On Purpose Coaching. Stephani, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
We are delighted to have you and excited to hear a little bit more about you. So with that, would you love to just share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. Long story short, so I enjoyed a very long career as a school psychologist. And so I worked for a long time in public schools, helping students with disabilities. So my role was to do evaluation and assessment to determine eligibility for disabilities, and then also to help teams develop plans around disabilities, behaviors, things like that. So my whole life, I've been a helper. I did not realize how much that was ingrained into my DNA until I became involved with the Enneagram, which I love. And so when I began to explore the Enneagram, I truly got the label of the helper. I'm an Enneagram 2. And so it explained so much more about kind of how I'm bent, how I lean, and why I'm so fulfilled and feel so much purpose when I am helping others. And so from there, I transitioned into life coaching, Enneagram coaching. I do events, speaking events, have authored 2 books this year, which has been new. So the latest one I just released about a week and a half ago. Also have a podcast. So I'm just having a great time encouraging others, pouring into the lives of others, and using kind of that helping skill that I feel like God gave me from childhood a long time ago.
That's wonderful. Well, congratulations on your new book. That's super exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a labor of love. It's so nice when those projects are finally out there and you get to share them with people.
Yes.
All right. Well, you have come today to share a little bit with us about living life more intentionally and with purpose. So with that, I'd love to hear what you want to share.
Yeah. So one of the things I discovered, as I'm in the empty nest phase of life, being a woman that, loved being a mom, loved my career, loved all those things, and just found myself in a season of what next and what now, and really started doing a lot of digging and reading and research around the idea of purpose and being intentional, and have discovered that for far too many of us, we kind of float through life and then we find ourselves in places that we don't necessarily intend to go, or we're not really sure how we got there. And even around that, thinking about the idea of, taking every thought captive, which is a biblical concept that we read about and we hear about. And so really began to examine my own thought process, my own mental pattern, and just that whole, do I have control of things? And the short answer is no, I don't have control of everything, but I definitely have control of some things. And so have learned several techniques. I'm even at this point looking into studying some positive psychology concepts, which is a whole nother ballgame. But I'm just loving the idea of what can we do intentionally to make sure that we live the life that we would like to live? And how can we be intentional about those things? And so there are so many concepts that I could share with you guys today. But one that has really been resonating with me personally recently is the idea that's called savoring. And it comes out of kind of that positive psychology realm. And the idea around savoring is if you think about, and especially, when I grew up, we did not have phones that had cameras on them. And so when we would go on a family vacation, there was this whole process of taking pictures and then taking the film out of the camera and sending the film off to a developer, getting the pictures back, putting the pictures in a photo album or doing something with those pictures. My grandmother, when she passed, had thousands of boxes of pictures, from her children, her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren. And so, why do we do that kind of thing? Why do we hang on to pictures? And so when you think about savoring, that is exactly what we're doing. So the pictures allow us to go back and revisit those beautiful memories, to go back and remind ourselves of those experiences that we had. And so just like you would savor a good meal, meaning you try to make it last as long as possible, we can savor good experiences in our life. And so when we're having those days where we have that feeling of, okay, this is it, this is it. And it may be a moment in a day, it may be a day, it may be a week, maybe a month, it could be a year. That we have that feeling of, okay, yes, this is what contentment feels like. This is what satisfaction feels like. This is what I want for my life. And then that moment's gone, being able to go back and recapture that. So you can do that through photographs. You can do that through journaling. You can do that through just creating mental pictures. And there's a lot of different ways. A song can sometimes be a savoring experience for you. There's a lot of ways that we can hang on to those really good positive feelings so that when we find ourselves in a state where we may not be feeling that way, we can go back and revisit and we can savor that moment. And so I love that concept of savoring as just a little tip and a trick to try to be more intentional about how we feel contentment and joy and happiness in our lives.
I love that. That resonates with me deeply. I know for me personally, I am a mom of young kiddos, but I'm already feeling just the quickness of their childhood. My oldest is almost 4 and it has been the fastest 4 years of my life. And so that concept of being able to savor those moments and just, kind of lock them away so that I can go back to them someday.
Yeah.
It's something I want to work on. It's something I need to really take to heart and kind of put into practice in my day to day.
Yeah. And there's just the concept of being present as well, right? Yeah. We just live, we're so futuristic. We're always kind of looking to the next thing. And, some of us live with dread and worry, and all of those things are very futuristic emotions. And so learning to be present, like you said, a mom of, young children, days are hard, but there also are good moments in every day. And so when you feel like this is one of those moments, how can I be present and really take all of that in before I move on to the next thing, which may be, and now I've got this laundry to do and I've got to, we're potty training or we're working on, sleeping in our own bed, or all those things that come along with being a mom of young children and being able to say, but for right now, this moment, this is a really good moment. I don't want to forget it.
Absolutely. So do you have any practical tips for people like me that want to work on being more present in the moment, ways to kind of do that well?
Yeah. Again, as a mom of young children, you probably don't have a ton of time to journal. But what I do encourage some of my moms to do is most of us have phones with a voice memo on it. And so when you have that moment during the day and it's like, oh, this was a really good moment, if nothing else, record a 15-second voice memo and just say, October 18th, 2022, this happened. It was great. I don't want to forget it. And so just doing that kind of thing, if you don't have time to journal it or you don't have time to, take pictures and scrapbook it and all those things, at least just a little voice memo. And sometimes those can be all you need to go back and revisit. So finding ways just to remind yourself of this is a good moment. And the other thing that I will say is that, we find what we look for, right? If you've ever heard that concept of, it's kind of the red Prius concept. If you, all of a sudden, if you drive a red Prius, everywhere you go, you see a red Prius. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for the good moments, you're much more likely to find them. And whereas if we're constantly looking for the negative moments and we're not, again, being intentional about that, we're going to find what we look for. And so just reminding yourself every day to look for those good moments and to be aware of them, that in and of itself will probably get you where you're wanting to go.
Absolutely. I love the voice memo tip. That's short, easy. Anybody can do that. Really, no matter what your life looks like, that's something that's accessible to all of us. So I appreciate that tip. Well, thank you so much for all that you've shared with us today, Stephani. Your enthusiasm for this is so obvious. And like I said, I personally am so excited to start applying some of this wisdom in my own life. But before we go, if you had to leave our community with like one final message or just quick parting words, what would it be?
Oh, goodness. That's kind of
a tough question.
One. Yes, it is a tough question. I think just going back to that being present, being intentional. Rarely do we get anywhere, on accident. If we take off, on a vacation or we're taking off to a destination, we have a plan. We know where we're going. We're headed in a certain direction. And I think life needs to be that way also. So just being mindful of what it is you want, where it is you're trying to go, and then back out of that and develop a plan to get there is going to be much more effective than just kind of floating through each and every day without purpose and intention. So think about what it is. A lot of times I'll ask my clients, what do you want? And it seems like such a simple question, but it's such a difficult question at the same time. And so if nothing else, ask yourself, like, what do I want from today? Doesn't mean every day is going to go the way you planned. We can't control everything and everybody, but you're much more likely to get there if you're at least trying, to go to a certain place or destination or to have some kind of a plan each day.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Stephani. And as always, thank you to those who've carved out a few minutes to sit with us today and to watch this video. Stay tuned for more encouraging and uplifting videos coming your way.
You've been listening to the No Labels, No Limits podcast with best-selling author, change agent, and strategic vision coach, Sarah Box. You can grab the show notes and find out how to work with Sarah at sarahbox.com/No Labels, No Limits podcast. We'd love this podcast to reach as many people as possible. So please remember to rate, leave a 5-star review, and share the podcast with someone you think would get value from this conversation. Until next time, keep taking those daily action steps to align your purpose to your principles and achieve your goals in business and life.